Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. It's 4 o'clock in New York. It's 3 o'clock in Minneapolis, where a confrontation that could have national and international ramifications is unfolding right now. A brutal campaign by federal agents from the Trump administration meeting resistance on the streets of that city from Americans. Protests flared last night after another shooting by an ICE agent. This time it was a Venezuelan immigrant. He was shot in the leg. A neighbor told the New York Times that they heard gunshots and witnessed federal agents swarming the neighborhood through smoke grenades in an effort to get the man to come out of his home. The Department of Homeland Security claims that the man fled a traffic stop and that he assaulted the officer who caught up to him. Again, that is what they are claiming. That's what they are saying. A Minnesota lawmaker released a 911 call, allegedly from the man's wife. In that 911 call, the wife says that he was chased into the house and shot through the door. The incident led to clashes with protesters last night. At least 200 people gathered on the scene. Law enforcement used tear gas and flashbangs against the crowd. 2 people were detained and then released. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey condemned the violence during a press conference last night. Watch that.
For anyone that is taking the bait tonight, stop. That is not helpful. Go home. We cannot counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own brand of chaos. And I have seen thousands of people peacefully protesting. For those that have peacefully protested, I applaud you. For those that are taking the bait, you are not helping, and you are not helping the undocumented immigrants in our city. You are not helping the people that call this place home.
And here is Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz.
Donald Trump wants this chaos. He wants confusion. And yes, he wants more violence on our streets. We cannot give him what he wants. We must protest loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. Indeed, as hard as we will fight in the courts and at the ballot box, we cannot and will not let violence prevail. You're angry, I'm angry. Angry is not a strong enough word, but we must remain peaceful.
Now, we played Governor Walz and Mayor Frey for you because it represents a night and day contrast to Donald Trump and his administration. Proving them right, responded to the events in Minneapolis by fanning the flames again. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche blamed Governor Walz and Mayor Frey for the violence last night. And as for Donald Trump, this morning he threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, the 1807 law that allows him to deploy the military. And it is that threat that now has the people of Minneapolis fearing that things in their city will only get worse. Here's what 2 residents told our reporters on the ground.
This is not good. This is not good. I'm afraid it's going to happen again tonight. I don't know what's going to happen here.
Is this going to stop? Probably not. Is it going to get worse? Probably. What does getting worse look like? Like, is martial law coming? You know, almost certainly, which sucks. Because these are our neighbors. Like, we're just living. We're just here trying to protect each other. And so to see the different narratives coming from different sides it's all just tough to reckon with.
A city on edge as the Trump administration fans the flames and creates chaos is where we start today. With me at the table, host of the Bulwark podcast, political analyst Tim Miller is here, and my friend and colleague, senior political Minnesota State Representative Aisha Gomez is back with us. Let me start with you, Representative Gomez. Just tell me what's happening. Take me back to last night, actually. Tell me what unfolded last night.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So there's kind of a lot of lack of clarity about the situation that happened last night. I can just say, like, having been on the scene of situations that then prompted a press release from DHS, I appreciate that we're looking critically at those because they're sort of propaganda tools themselves. I mean, what's been going on since Renee Good was murdered, my constituent was murdered in the street 1 week ago, is that we have just seen a massive escalation. We've seen additional troops. And our streets are tense. Our streets, to the extent that there is chaos being sown in our streets, it's being sown by just this influx of heavily armed, masked agents of the federal government who are themselves here clearly to destabilize our community. It's hard to just go about your daily life without encountering scenes of chaos. I was at a school a couple days ago, 2 days ago, just welcoming the kids in the morning. I heard whistles and honks. I was a couple blocks from Renee Good's murder. I ran over there and, just this scene of complete chaos. They're pulling a bystander. They cut her seatbelt, pulled her out of her car. They're carrying. She wasn't even an observer. She was just trying to go to a doctor's appointment, and she was physically assaulted, removed from her car. An observer was physically assaulted. They were carrying them by their four limbs. They used chemical munitions against the crowd. I was maced and tear gassed. And as I'm just this scene, right, in a residential community of chaos is unfolding at the hands of these federal agents, I see this man, and he has a little, it's a baby, right? A toddler, probably less than 2 years old, like an 18-month-old or so. And he's just trying to cross the street to go to his house. And he is just terrified, and his baby is terrified, and they're crossing the street through clouds of tear gas. And that is the scene in an American city. And I just appreciate the invitation, because I feel like if you're not living here, you might not understand like that this guy's just trying to get to his house, right? Like, people are trying to bring their kids to school, go to work, and there are scenes of complete chaos. And to be clear, there's no insurrection happening in Minneapolis right now. The chaos and the lack of safety in our streets is because of ICE and CBP.
What do you tell your citizens to do? I mean, what should people do? I know the governor and the mayor have made clear that they should remain peaceful, but if they need help, are they, are local police folks roaming the streets? I mean, what should your constituents do if they find themselves in that situation, heaven forbid, holding an 18-month-old baby and just trying to cross the street and go home or drive to a doctor's appointment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. It's a hard question to answer. There are not local law enforcement agencies that are willing to intervene physically when citizens are being brutalized, and that's just the fact of the moment that we're in. And so what I'm telling my constituents is to continue doing what they're doing, which is, not only going about their lives, but also being on watch for each other, taking care of each other. That the reason that I came upon this scene when I was at the school 2 days ago is because I heard the sound of whistles. We all are wearing whistles in Minneapolis, and it draws community.
Shovel and a broom handle. According to the DHS, this is their account, the agent feared for his life and fired shots, hitting the migrant in the leg. The agent and the migrant were taken to a local hospital. And just moments ago, President Trump weighed in, threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act unless, as he put it, the corrupt politicians in Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE. And Mika, this was certainly a marked escalation. Invoking the Insurrection Act would allow him to mobilize far more federal assets and troops.
Let's go right to what's happening on the ground. Joining us live from Minneapolis, MS Now reporter Nnamdi Igwanwu. Nnamdi, describe, first of all, the overnight clashes.
Mika, you can still see just evidence of the clash, and the sun is starting to come out here, and you can see more clearly just how intense things got. All of these white marks, just some pepper balls, remnants of the pepper balls that were used by federal agents as they tried to keep the crowd yesterday in control. I can tell you, being here now, several hours later, you can almost still taste the tear gas in the air. There have been several times that we have had to kind of take a break and go to a different area because there was just so much used that it is still pungent in this air. But the clashes yesterday, a result of tensions that have been simmering all week since we've been here, that boiled over after another shooting, ICE-linked shooting of an immigrant they were trying to apprehend. Overnight for hours, we saw federal law enforcement work to control dozens of very, very angry, very upset protesters who responded in kind with throwing things like fireworks and other objects at the federal agents, who then responded with the use of pepper spray, pepper bullets, a ton of tear gas, and what are called bullet balls that essentially, when you throw them, they create a flash, an explosion, and send rubber pellets everywhere. We were here on the ground yesterday for hours, and there were several moments where we had to go hide for cover just because things were getting very, very volatile. You know, there have been warnings from Governor Walz all week since the death of Renee Nicole Good last week that protests have to remain peaceful for fear of any sort of violent escalation, potentially inciting more of a federal presence here. And we know the president this morning suggesting that that is something that could be possible. It's something that Mayor Frey has been very, very conscious of and been warning people, protesters, with a clear message, essentially.
Extracurricular programs. This discussion is not about specific individuals, locations, or political viewpoints. Instead, it focuses on general principles that guide oversight, review processes, and continuous improvement in education systems. Educational environments serve diverse communities with varied needs and expectations. Because of this diversity, maintaining fairness and consistency requires clear standards, regular evaluation, and open communication. When questions arise about how programs operate, review processes help ensure that expectations are met and that outcomes remain aligned with shared values. Let's begin by understanding why reviews are an important part of education. Reviews are not inherently punitive. In many cases, they are tools for clarification and alignment. They help institutions examine whether policies are being applied consistently, whether safeguards are adequate, and whether goals such as safety and equal access are being met. In structured systems, reviews follow established procedures. Concerns are typically submitted through formal channels, assessed against existing guidelines, and examined by designated oversight teams. This process allows issues to be addressed methodically rather than reactively. One key area where reviews often occur is in extracurricular programs. Extracurricular activities, including athletics, arts, and clubs, play a significant role in student development. They encourage teamwork, discipline, confidence, and engagement beyond the classroom. Because these programs are competitive or collaborative in nature, clear participation guidelines are essential. Guidelines help define eligibility, safety measures, and standards of conduct. When guidelines are clear and consistently applied, participants understand expectations and feel confident in the integrity of the program. When ambiguity exists, questions may arise, prompting review and clarification. Safety is a foundational consideration. Educational programs are designed to provide environments where participants can engage confidently and securely. Safety considerations may include physical well-being, supervision, equipment standards, and appropriate training. Reviews often assess whether these elements are adequately addressed. Fairness is closely connected to safety. Fairness involves ensuring that opportunities are accessible and that rules apply equally to all participants. It also involves maintaining balance within competitive settings so that outcomes reflect effort, preparation, and skill within agreed-upon frameworks. Equal opportunity is another core principle. Equal opportunity does not necessarily mean identical experiences for everyone. Instead, it means that programs are structured to provide meaningful access and support across a range of circumstances. Reviews help determine whether this principle is being upheld in practice. Oversight bodies play a role in maintaining these standards. Oversight teams are typically responsible for interpreting guidelines, evaluating compliance, and offering recommendations. Their work supports consistency across institutions and helps resolve uncertainty when policies are applied differently in different settings. Transparency is important throughout this process. Clear communication about why a review is occurring, what criteria are being considered, and how conclusions will be reached helps build trust. Transparency reassures participants and communities that decisions are grounded in established standards rather than arbitrary judgment. Communication also helps manage expectations. When institutions explain processes clearly, stakeholders are better prepared to understand outcomes, even if adjustments are required. This understanding reduces confusion and supports constructive dialogue. Another important aspect is balance. Educational programs must balance multiple priorities at once. These may include inclusion, safety, competition, access, and educational value. Reviews help identify where balance may need adjustment and where practices can be refined. Balance is rarely static. As programs evolve, new questions may emerge. Changes in participation, resources, or expectations can prompt reassessment. Periodic review ensures that programs remain aligned with current needs while honoring long-standing principles. Collaboration often strengthens outcomes. When educators, administrators, advisors, and community representatives contribute perspectives, reviews tend to be more comprehensive. Collaboration helps identify practical solutions that work within real-world constraints. Listening is a key part of collaboration. Feedback from participants and staff provides insight into how policies function day to day. This feedback complements formal guidelines and data, offering a fuller picture of program dynamics. Another important concept is consistency. Consistency across institutions supports fairness and clarity. When similar programs follow similar standards, participants can anticipate expectations and transitions more smoothly. Reviews often examine whether consistency is being maintained. Consistency does not eliminate flexibility. Local contexts may require thoughtful adaptation. The goal is not uniformity for its own sake, but alignment with shared principles while allowing